First off, I'm going to tell you about what liquid crystals are. Liquid crystal is a state of matter. It's between solid and liquid, so it has some properties of each, such as, well, the type I've drawn here is called a smectic liquid crystal, which has layers, like a solid, but the layers can freely float around, like a liquid. Normally, liquid crystals look like a cloudy liquid, and they are very temperature sensitive. The liquid crystals themselves can be polymers, although I haven't shown any polymer liquid crystals today. One of the most common types of LCD is called the twisted pneumatic thin film transistor liquid crystal display, and in this one the liquid crystals are a mixture of chiral and pneumatic liquid crystals. If a liquid crystal is pneumatic, that means that all of the molecules maintain the same orientation with respect to each other, unless influenced by outside forces, like a solid, but they can otherwise freely move, which is like a liquid. As you can see here, all of these liquid crystals are facing the same way, and the liquid ones are all facing different ways.
Liquid crystals are a kind of matter that exists somewhere between a liquid and a solid. When we think about matter, it's usually in one of three distinct states: solid, liquid, or gas. But some things don't quite fit perfectly into one of these categories, like Jell-O. Not exactly solid, not exactly liquid. Liquid crystals are this way too. They can flow like liquids, but they have some properties of solids. They maintain orientational order, meaning the molecules are mostly pointing in the same direction like a solid, but they've lost the positional order associated with solids because they aren't perfectly aligned in all directions. Meanwhile, liquids are pointing all over the place, and gases? Let's not even get into that. Cell membranes and soapy water are natural examples of liquid crystals. They both have the ability to form a structure that flows. This property is very useful, and we've found ways to control it, which is why most modern electronic displays are also liquid crystal based. We can control the order of the liquid crystals used in liquid crystal displays with electricity. Think of it like a valve for light. We can open and close the valve by changing the alignment of the liquid crystals using electrical fields. With 256 combinations and gradations of on or off or in between, more than 16 million bright colors can be made into very sharp images. Future liquid crystal research will bring us thinner and more efficient LCD monitors and televisions, and current research combining liquid crystals and nanotechnology will bring us one step closer to true three-dimensional holographic images. Although they're neither one nor the other, liquid crystals are a singular force for the future.
For the polarizability can be changed with an electric field. Next up, polarizing filters. They only let light vibrating through one way. So if you put two behind one another that polarize light 90 degrees apart, like these ones, that one polarizes that way, that polarizes that way, no light will be let through. See this. If you put two the same way, then all the light will be let through, as they're both, well, then it'll look like all the light's been let through. And you can rotate them to give varying degrees of light letting through. In twisted pneumatic, the polarizing filters are put 90 degrees to one another. This is a diagram of a subpixel, which is what the LCD is made of. First up, we have a backlight which provides light to illuminate the screen. Next we have the polarizing filter going horizontally. And then we have a sheet of glass which separates the filters from the liquid crystals. And we have a thin film transistor next, which provides electric current to change the direction of the crystals, followed by a polyimide. These control the direction that liquid crystals face when they are all in the cell, so they control the starting direction. Then we have the mixture of liquid crystals to polarize the light. This layer is around 5 to 10 micrometers thick normally. It can vary. The liquid crystals have to be attached to the back of the panel for this technique, which is why the polyimide is there. Then there's another polyimide layer, after which is an electrode which finishes off the circuit, so the electricity flows from here through to there. Then another sheet of glass to separate the filter. Finally, another polarizing filter, which is 90 degrees to the other one. So if the liquid crystals don't polarize at all, then no light gets let through. And if they polarize completely, then all of the light gets let through. And finally, there's a color filter, which is one of 3 colors per pixel. There are 3 of these subpixels that make up each pixel, as you can see here.
LCD displays basically have a fluorescent light source behind the LCD panel. And the LCD individual little elements, if you want to call them slots or pixels, on the LCD plane or surface, are modulating or cutting off and on the light that's coming from the fluorescent light behind them. And so what you're doing is you're basically using liquid crystals to control the amount of light that is allowed to go through this surface. And that then will either, to the viewer, make it look like it's dark or light. And then they put colored areas or filters over the individual little slots of the liquid crystals. And so you have a light coming through from behind, and then the crystals modulating the intensity, and then it's going through a filter making it a color. And so by this system we can have any brightness at any point of any color. And so we've totally got away from the phosphors and we're going to the liquid crystals. And let me just get that clear. What we're doing is we have a light source of a fluorescent light. Then we have a liquid crystal which modulates the amount of light passing through it. Then it goes to a filter, a color filter, red, green, or blue. And then that goes through to the output. And so we have a point in this system where it can be any color, any brightness. And of course we scan that with a television raster and we make a television picture that way. Okay, the next step up from that, and one of the big problems with an LCD was it never could have perfect black. There was always a little bit of the fluorescent light from the back leaking through to the front, and the LCDs, the liquid crystals, could never absolutely cut off all light coming through them. And so you always had a little bit of light coming through, so you never had absolute black on LCD display. You could have absolute black on a plasma display, and then they came up with the light emitting diode displays. And light emitting diodes, because they were actually the source of emission, you could
Today's modern LCD technology is based on a discovery made by engineers Lehmann and Reinitzer around 120 years ago. Let's take a look at the technology in detail. In liquid crystals, the molecules are similar to long, drawn-out rods. As with crystalline structures, these molecules exhibit a strictly ordered crystal structure. The ordering of the molecules creates a directional orientation. In most LCD displays, the liquid crystals are embedded between two glass plates rotated by 90 degrees. This formation produces what is known as a twisted pneumatic LCD. A polarization filter is fitted onto each of the outer glass plates. These polarization filters mean that only one dispersion direction of multiple light waves emanating from a light source is allowed to pass through. The light follows the rotation of the molecules and, twisted by 90 degrees, hits the outer polarization filter. As the rotation means that the direction of the light matches that of the polarization filter, the light can also pass through this filter and brightens the outer glass plate at that point. If an electrical field is then generated between the glass plates, the special property of the liquid crystal molecule becomes fully apparent. As the molecules are dipolar, they react to the electrical field and are repelled. The rotated molecule structure is interrupted. When light then passes through the first polarization filter and follows the direction of the molecules, this hits the outer polarization filter and cannot pass through it. When a matrix is created from a number of these individual cells, it becomes possible to display graphics and images. To generate more colors, each pixel is divided into 3 subpixels. Color filters are placed over these subpixels in the colors of red, green, and blue. By triggering the subpixels differently, additive color mixing can be used to generate each color required.
If you were to zoom in on the monitor you are using to watch this video, you would see thousands of small red, green, and blue dots. 3 of these grouped together make up one picture element, or pixel for short. When you split up each pixel, you will see a backlight, 3 color filters, and polarizers. As light leaves the backlight, it travels along different planes, including the horizontal and vertical planes. The first polarizer only allows light traveling along the horizontal plane to pass through it, and onto the color filters. With another polarizer that only allows light to pass along the vertical axis, all the horizontal light waves are blocked, so no light reaches the color filters. This is where the liquid crystals come into play. If you were to look closely at one of these liquid crystals, you would see a transparent electrode on the front and the back, as well as etched glass on the front and the back. Liquid crystals typically orient themselves in random directions until the horizontally etched glass in the rear and the vertically etched glass in the front force them to twist into a predictable pattern. As light passes through the compressed liquid crystal, it naturally follows the path of the molecules, so that any light traveling along the horizontal plane exits along the vertical plane. By reintroducing the electrodes and passing electricity through them, we can get the molecules to align themselves in the direction of the electric flow, causing light to no longer twist when passing through the liquid crystal. When we place these crystals back into the pixel, we can see that the light from the backlight will pass through the horizontal filter, get twisted into a vertical position by the liquid crystals, and then flow through the vertical polarizer to the color filters. However, if we turn on the electrodes, then the light is no longer twisted by the liquid crystals and stops at the vertical polarizer. By adjusting the amount of electricity that flows through each set of electrodes, we can control how much light reaches each color filter, and therefore what color is seen on the display. We generally talk about colors on a display in terms of how bright the red, green, and blue are in each pixel, from 0 to 255. If all 3 numbers are 0, the color on the display appears black, and if all are 255, then the display appears white. As you increase the amount of red, green, and blue in each pixel, you will see different colors appear on the screen. The monitor adjusts the amount of electricity flowing through each liquid crystal one by one, row by row, around 60 times per second. This has been a short look at how LCD monitors work.